I'm finally back from my trip, and let's just say a lot has happened around this market in the last 2 weeks since I have been gone. And I know that a lot of you have probably noticed that the videos lately have not been the greatest, and that is because a lot of them have been scheduled ahead of time while I was on my trip. But I am now back to the normal 3 videos per day schedule. So, going forward, I will be grinding and making updated content for all of you, and I hope that you guys definitely do enjoy that. But let's actually talk a little bit about what has been happening since I have been gone. I mean, Bitcoin is trading at about roughly 108K. It did make a new all-time high while I was gone. And a lot of people are really kind of just upset because XRP, well, let's just be honest here, XRP is trading at about $2.28. And if Bitcoin's making new all-time highs and it's still trading at about roughly 108K, why isn't XRP pumping? Well, we're going to talk about that. In my opinion, right now in crypto, a big move is brewing. Now, you might be saying, well, Nick, we've heard that many times over, and let's just be honest, nothing has really happened. And I do agree with you. Listen, we've been hearing a lot of ideas around how, everything is about to change overnight and this and that, whatever. But the main thing that I want to focus on here is price action, because for the most part, when we think about things changing or, oh, this is a huge move and this is a huge move, a lot of those are fundamentals. Now, fundamentals don't always equal price action, and I want you guys to be aware of that. But I also want you guys to be aware that XRP is trading at about $2.30. But if we go back just 8 months ago, 9 months ago, XRP was trading at 50 cents. XRP is still doing very well. It's been ranging and it's been consolidating, which is why I say a big move is brewing. I'm going to go over a lot of information in this video to really kind of reinforce that idea. But if we think about most of the altcoins in the last 24 hours, they're up double digits, some of them not so much. Last 7 days, double-digit figures across the board for a lot of altcoins, which we love to see. And also, if we look at the top gainers and losers in the last 30 days in the top 500, outside of a few, recent launches that are, mostly just garbage coins, there has been some great moves across the board for some great projects out there. A lot of them definitely bouncing off of the lows, but, again, these are still some nice moves because of what Bitcoin has accomplished. Now, looking at Bitcoin, right, 108K currently at this time that I'm recording. And if we look at like the last month, we did hit about almost $12,000. Now, you might be asking, Nick, why isn't everything going parabolic? Bitcoin's trading at new all-time highs. I thought by the time that we would get to these prices, that altcoins would be significantly higher. And although a lot of people would be thinking that, I want you guys to understand that we are not just yet at that point where altcoins go absolutely parabolic. We're still very well in a Bitcoin cycle. Now, let's talk about what I was saying before I went on my trip. This was on May 12th, and I said Bitcoin recently hit major resistance from December and January, and we're now rejecting it. Key level of interest, about roughly 98K. We didn't hit that. We hit 101K or something like that. I'll talk about that here in a second. To sweep liquidity, and then we retest resistance once again and hopefully clear 106.2K. This is the updated view of that chart. Okay, side by side, if we really kind of look at this, some nice price action. Now, we do have that sell-off, right? This was on May 12th. This is May 12th back here. Like I said, we hit about roughly 100 and almost 1K. It was $100,752,000. Not exactly 98K, but hey, I will take it. Since then, we ranged, we chopped, and then we had a nice move to the upside. And we broke right out of the red zone. And the reason why I was talking about 106.2K is because if we actually look at where we are at right now, 106.2K was all of the daily candle closes all the way back in December and January. So we are now significantly higher than that. We're still trading at all-time highs going off of those highs, obviously not going off of the 22nd highs. And so far, Bitcoin is just chopping here, and it's just ranging. Now, the good news is that Bitcoin is trading at 108K, and we have that clear confirmation of a big breakout to the upside, and we are over the major resistance levels, which we love to see. This is very similar back to the September timeframe, and I've been telling you guys that time and time again before I went on my trip that we have a bullish structure on Bitcoin yet again. A lot of people were expecting a much deeper sell-off, and we weren't bottomed out yet. And the reason why I said that we were bottomed out is simply because of the structure. For an example, here we have September, right? This is a lower low. This is a lower low compared to the previous lows on the 3-day close. But the thing that we focused on was the higher highs. And we got that right here in the end of September before we sold off a little bit into October, and then we just continued to pump into, of course, elections. Now, if we look at this over here in April, we have our lower lows, but what we have going forward is higher highs going off of these closes. And that higher high happened towards the end of April, which is exactly when we started to flip bullish again on crypto. Now, why aren't altcoins moving? Why is XRP looking like this right now on the daily? Well, let's first start off with what I predicted XRP to do when I uploaded this video on May 13th talking about how there is, a brewing push on XRP to shock the world. Now, obviously, is this clickbait? Sure, you could say that. But the main thing that I was talking about here was that everyone was expecting lower price action in this market. And with XRP, I did expect lower price action. I expected us to make a higher low on the chart before we start to push to the upside, create a new all-time high, and yes, shock the world. So you could call it clickbait, or you could think logically and say, all right, well, number one, the YouTube algorithm does support, titles like this, which is exactly why I make titles like this. But also, it does make sense because if we do make a new all-time high and if we actually push higher, then yeah, it's going to shock a lot of people that are expecting a lot lower on XRP. Now, this is the updated chart of XRP. This is a side-by-side just to kind of show you guys the price action that we did get. Now, in this video, the main thing that I was looking at was about $2.55 being that major resistance zone. Now, you might be saying, well, Nick, we closed above it here on the 13th and on the 14th, so weren't you wrong? No. On the higher time frame, aka the 3-day, which is the thing that really matters the most. Like I love looking at the 3-day chart quite a bit because this is a chart time frame that really kind of, I would say, is more accurate than the daily chart or even like the weekly. It's a nice in between. It gives you a little bit more price data. And if we actually look at this, we have our close right at resistance, and then we have the rejection off of this. On the daily, we do have our higher low. The question is, do we hold this? If we do hold this, then I am expecting us to break above this $2.55 level, get a close on the 3-day, have that confirmation of a big breakout, and that breakout should take us above the highs going back to January. Now, it will take a little bit of time, but it'll be very similar to what Bitcoin did, right? It had a nice little chop effect to the upside. We finally cleared some previous highs, and then we got the all-time high breakout. I do expect a lot of altcoins to do that, but it's going to chop a little bit more while Bitcoin dominance continues to chop around 63%. I've been focused on this. This is why altcoins are not moving the way that we want them to. This is why we're not seeing those violent moves like we saw back in 2021 or 2017, 2018. It's because Bitcoin dominance has yet to actually officially top out. Now, the time frame that I've been looking at is 1,096 days, but this is on the 3-month chart, and that's very important to focus on. Why? Because although we could argue that by the end of June, we should be starting alt season, it could be June, July, August. That time frame there is what I'm really kind of looking at. So the summertime, aka, we're jumping into June here soon. we should start to see altcoins waking up in a big way. And we should also start to see Bitcoin dominance dropping if we are going to follow this 1096 day pattern. Now, we don't have to follow this perfectly. I'm mainly looking at June being a big month for crypto. Why? Why am I? Well, because I talked about it previously. It's the rate cut decision. We know that back on May 13th, we got an update from US inflation falling to 2.3%. This is lower than expectations. And I said, did someone say rate cuts? With the rate cut decision happening on the 18th, the 18th is the big day, not the 17th, the 18th. If we do get rate cuts on the 18th, and the big question is if, right? If we get that. The number one thing that I'm focused on here is what that will do for traditional markets. It would cause them to surge. This will carry Bitcoin with it. During that time, I do suspect a rotation into altcoins heavily. Mainly Ethereum initially, which will be phase 2 of alt season, leading into the additional phases of alt season where XRP, HBAR, XLM, and all of our, additional altcoins go absolutely parabolic. Now, does all of this really kind of rely on the rate cut? Rate cut or not, I still suspect alt season is going to happen, within the next 1 to 3 months. I'm focused on that. The thing about the rate cut decision and why I suspect that it's now time for the Fed to cut rates is looking at inflation. If we're really kind of focused on this 2.3% May 13th, right now we're at 2.08%. So inflation continues to drop. I know on this chart, it's showing us a nice, rise off of the April lows. And although, yeah, we did, see that rise, we're still lower than expectations, which is very good to see. I suspect that we get the rate cut decision in June, regardless of if I'm right or wrong. It doesn't really matter. I still think that this market is going to continue higher. Now, recently, the main thing that really kind of started to slow the push down was tariffs. Tariffs are still a big focus. I still think that it is a lot of noise, right? And I said that during this entire time as well. During this entire move, everyone was saying there's no way that crypto is going to go crazy because of the tariffs and the trade war. The market's done. We're topped out. We're going to continue to go lower. I think that tariffs are still all noise right now. Do I think that they determine traditional market movement? Definitely. I mean, it's all emotions. I don't suspect that it's going to keep the markets down forever or, going sideways forever, because it's very clear that they didn't work during this time either. So I don't suspect that the tariffs are going to, kill momentum. I think that is just one thing that we have to deal with. And it's mainly just noise, in my opinion. Now, the big thing here is also Ethereum. Like I said, Ethereum is the focus because of phase 2. I said on the 11th that we just witnessed Ethereum surge over 48% in one weekly candle. Last time that we did do this was back in December of 2020. The altcoin market is about to wake up in a very big way. We have been hearing about alt season for a while. Now you are about to watch it happen. And yeah, right now Ethereum is at 23 or 2,700. In this post, it was 2,500 that we were trading at. So we didn't move too much since that post, but this is a good start. And momentum is starting to pick up a little bit here for Ethereum. Again, this does take a little bit of time, and we will chop a little bit. We will consolidate. Consolidation is not a bad thing. Boring price action is not a bad thing, because boring price action typically leads to very bullish price action. And this is exactly why I still focus on that sideways momentum that we've had in the past as well. That's been very boring, because typically what happens is what we saw back in October of 2023 all the way into March of 2024. And just for reference, what I'm talking about is the fact that we did go sideways here, right? For over like 190 days. And then what ended up happening was a surge off the lows of over 163%. So sideways price action, boring price action, use it as an opportunity. Don't think about it as a bad thing. XRP right now, we're just kind of chopping here. This is on the 1 week. Same price action, by the way, same structure as Bitcoin. We just have yet to create that higher high on the weekly, but we have been going sideways since that push to the upside, and we've just been chopping for 133 days. This will eventually break out, and this will have one of the largest moves that we've witnessed on XRP in a very long time as well. This is where we do start to see all-time highs. This is where we do start to see some pretty significant, price action or price targets being met as well in terms of price action, which is where, a lot of people have targets of like $5 to $10 being hit or potentially even higher. So overall, relax, take a deep breath, take a little bit of a break from the charts if they're, starting to frustrate you. Overall, we're still expecting alt season within the next, 1 to 3 months. And I do suspect that we do get the rate cut. We don't have to rely on it, but it's still something that we are watching for closely because it will impact markets in a big way. But with that being said, a big move is brewing. I'm very excited for what's to come. And so far, things have been, really right on par with what I've been, expecting. And that's not me calling things perfectly. That's just me, really kind of analyzing the market and seeing what could potentially happen. And hey, the universe delivered. But with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.